The 76ers get their revenge against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the duo of Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey went absolutely insane. But before we jump into this video, please make sure you hit the like button, you hit the notification bell, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So before this game started, the Sixers were already missing two players. They ruled out Robert Covington and Nico Batum. I think Nico had a hamstring injury against the Chicago Bulls, and he left the game in the third quarter and didn't return. But Robert Covington, I don't really know what's going on. They said he had some sort of illness, but hopefully he's ready to go. Hopefully he's healthy enough to play on Friday and on Monday against the Miami Heat on Christmas Day. But with this game right here, I already knew that the Sixers were at a disadvantage because going up against Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, I knew that Tobias Harris was going to start at the power forward position, and he was going to give up a lot of size to Karl Anthony Towns, because Karl Anthony Towns is a 7-footer, and Tobias Harris is only 6'7", and I knew he was going to dominate that matchup, and he did that. But the Sixers came into this game, and in the first quarter, they started out cold. I mean, Embiid had back-to-back turnovers. The first one was an offensive foul, I believe. He drove on Rudy Gobert, but he lowered that shoulder. An offensive foul was called. And the second one, it was just a bad pass to Maxey, and it was a backcourt violation. And they started missing shots. I mean, they missed their first 6 or 7 shots, and they were only able to score on the 8th possession, and those were some Joel Embiid free throws. He drove to the basket, and Rudy Gobert fouled him. But the Sixers didn't really have a great first quarter, but Joel Embiid was being Joel Embiid. He was being aggressive. He was, trying to establish dominance. He was going to the basket. Now, he did take 7 free throws in the first quarter, and I was a little bit concerned because I already know what the narrative on Joel Embiid is, and him taking 7 free throws in the first quarter alone, I could only imagine how many free throws he would have ended the game with if he was going at that rate. And the Timberwolves were also playing good defense on him, and he was only 1 of 6 from the field in the first quarter. And I was just saying to myself, hopefully this doesn't continue, because if this continues like that, the Sixers will have absolutely zero chance to win this game, because the Minnesota Timberwolves have the number 1 defense in the league. They have the highest defensive rating in the league today. So they get into the second quarter, and always, Embiid doesn't start in the second quarter because he plays the entire first quarter. So he sits out to start the second quarter. So the second quarter started, and Karl Anthony Towns and Jaden McDaniels were feasting against these Sixers. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns was just going to the basket. He was being aggressive. He was posting up Tobias Harris multiple times, getting foul calls, getting and ones, and just talking junk to the crowd and saying that he can't guard him. But I mean, it was just sad to watch, because Tobias Harris was doing the best he could, I mean, in my opinion, but Karl Anthony Towns is just too big, too strong, too dominant for him, and he was just taking advantage of it. He was taking advantage of that matchup. And Paul Reed was also fouling too much. I mean, Paul Reed, he did get some stops in the paint, but overall, I don't really think he had a great game. But I mean, Karl Anthony Towns and Jaden McDaniels was just being a pest on Tyrese Maxey. I think there was one play Maxey was trying to reject the screen, but Jaden McDaniels read that play very good, and Maxey just drove into him and lost the ball, and Jaden McDaniels just ran the fast break and got the easy points, and Maxey fouled him. Maxey actually fouled him on that play at the basket, and that gets me so mad, because why would you foul somebody when he's already at the basket? Like, it's too late. Just let him get the 2 points and just keep it pushing. But he fouled him, and he got the N1, and he converted that free throw. But I mean, he was making shots. I don't know why they were just leaving him wide open, and he was making the Sixers pay for it. And he ended up with 11 points in that second quarter alone. And Karl Anthony Towns had 12 points in that quarter. But the Sixers were also making shots. Embiid checked in the 7-minute mark, and he was also doing work or going at the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves have a great defensive team, but it just seemed like they had nothing against Embiid in the first half. But the third quarter started, and it was all Joel Embiid. I mean, he was just unstoppable in that third quarter. And for whatever reason, no other Sixer player was able to score but Joel. Now, Patrick Beverly did get a running floater in the down in the paint, and I think KJ Martin also had, I think, 3 points in that in that third quarter, but it was all Joel Embiid. I mean, that mid-range jumper is just automatic. Like once he gets to it, it's like 9 times out of 10, it's like he's gonna make that shot. And he was just being aggressive, being physical. There was one play he went through Gobert's chest, and he sent Gobert flying on the floor, and he just laid the ball up. And there was one play, he was on the baseline and he spun and he took like a dribble or two, and he just punched it home, and nobody could guard him. They put Naz Reid, who I really like Naz Reid, and Naz Reid is one of my favorite bench players. I think he's one of the best stretch forwards in the game in terms of bench players. He comes off the bench and he's really doing a great job for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I mean, having him guard Joel Embiid, that's not a great that's not a great idea. And that was because Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns were both in foul trouble. And that was all from Embiid. Embiid was being physical with them, going at them from time to time. And Embiid's mid-range jumper it's just automatic. And I think I'm ready to put Joel Embiid in, one of the best mid-range scorers in today's game. Now, if you ask me, I would say Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, but I think Joel Embiid he's in the mix because when he gets that jumper going, like it's almost impossible to stop him, and he can make his free throws. Now, in this game in particular, he did finish with he made 17 straight free throws. Now, he was gonna make 18 free throws, but for whatever reason, he just missed the last one. But just in the third quarter, he was just being aggressive. And here's a play. Here's one of his plays from the third quarter, and I want you guys to take a look at this.
House Jr. lost his footing, gets it back to Joe. Needs some help. Oil just taking himself. Oh my goodness! House Jr. lost his footing, gets it back to Joe. Needs some help. Oil just taking himself. Oh my goodness! House Jr. lost his footing, gets it back to Joe. Needs some help. Oil just taking himself. Oh my goodness!
I mean, at that point, nobody could stop him. And I don't know why Naz Reid was under the basket. I mean, just get out the way, let him get that dunk, because if you foul him, you're just giving him extra points. But I mean, nobody could stop him in the third quarter. And we head into the fourth, and this guy right here just takes over the game. Tyrese Maxey. He came up huge for the Sixers. I think he scored like 12 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was getting to the basket. He was shooting threes, and he was running DHO. He was running DHO with Paul Reed, and running screen actions and the flip actions that they run a lot. And he was really generating a lot of offense off of that single play. And I don't know what happened, but it just seemed like Jaden McDaniels could not stop him. And there was a play in particular where I think after Maxey scored, that was kind of like the dagger in the game, the dagger for the game. And it kind of like it was over with at that point. And that play is right here. I want you guys to take a look at this. So here we go.
One of the reasons why, right there.
Maxey. How good is Tyrese Maxey?
One of the reasons why, right there.
Maxey. How good is Tyrese Maxey?
One of the reasons why, right there.
Maxey.
I mean, at that point, it was over with for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I don't even know how he was able to drive past Jaden McDaniel so easily and get to the basket and change his direction to lay the ball up on the other side and avoid Karl Anthony Towns. But after this play, the Minnesota Timberwolves just emptied out their bench, and that was it for it. But the Sixers kept their starters in, and Joel Embiid was at, I think, 48 points at that point, and he got fouled and he got to the free throw line. He made the first free throw and he missed the second one, but the Sixers were able to get the offensive rebound, and Embiid shot that mid-range jumper and got to 51 points, and that was the game right there. And Embiid did finish the game with yeah, he had 51 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists. And Maxey was at 35 points, 5 assists, and he was 50, 40, 90 for this game in particular. And I have a question. So, the last 4 or 5 games of the Sixers schedule, the narrative was that Joel Embiid can only score, or he can only dominate weaker teams, or he can only score against teams that are very low in the standings, which is the Washington Wizards, the Detroit Pistons, and the Charlotte Hornets. So I have a question for those that say that. The Minnesota Timberwolves have the best defense in the NBA. The Minnesota Timberwolves have the highest defensive rating in the NBA. Now, if you think I'm lying, take a look at this. So they have a 107.5 defensive rating. That's the highest in the NBA. So my question is, if Joel can only score against weak teams, if he can only dominate weak teams, how is he able to drop 51 points on the Minnesota Timberwolves, the team with the highest defensive rating? Now, if you have an answer to it, you can leave the answer in the comment section, but there's no answer to it. There's no answer to it. Now, I know what people are gonna say. Oh, he shot a whole bunch of free throws, but if you actually watch the game, he was getting fouled. Like, he was getting fouled, he was getting hacked multiple times, and sometimes he was just making the shot. He is just that good. He doesn't shoot free throws for a reason. He gets fouled. Now, sometimes he does that rip through and gets foul calls out of it. I'm not denying it, but for the most part, he gets fouled. He legitimately gets fouled. Now, imagine if he's not getting fouled. If he's not getting fouled, he'll probably average 40 or 50, 40 or 45 points if he's not getting fouled, if they're playing him straight up. But people are gonna say whatever. Naysayers are gonna say whatever. Haters are gonna say whatever. But this Sixer team just have to, play their game and keep proving people wrong. And it was a great game all around, but there's only one concern that I have for the Sixer team. And my concern is that the role players have to watch this game in particular and motivate themselves with this, because apart from Joel and Tyrese, nobody else was in double figures. Everybody else was in single figures. And that's not a great sign, because Embiid and Maxey cannot carry this team every single night. The role players have to step up. Role players have to come to play. Role players have to do your job. Now, I know they're not going to drop 30 or 35, but I mean, as a role player, Tobias, I always expect a 16 through 25 point game from Tobias Harris every single night, because he's one of the highest paid players on this unit. Now, that's not a lot to ask for, because he's one of the most expensive players on this team. So that's all I have for this game tonight. It was a great game, and I'm really happy that the Sixers were able to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, because the first time they played, the Sixers were on a back-to-back, and they were definitely at a disadvantage. So I'm glad they were able to get this win, and they finally beat the best team in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken, because they have the best record and they have the best defense in the league too. So the narrative cannot always be that the Sixers beat weaker teams. Now, they just proved that they can beat a top team and a high caliber team in the NBA. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. hopefully, if you enjoyed this video, you can hit the like button and you can leave your thoughts right down there in the comment section. But until next time, peace.